Welcome back to the official MESHCORE channel, guys. Today we're going to be talking about pathing. Now, pathing within MESHCORE is one of its unique features. It's one of its best features, and it's a feature that's not found in other mesh systems like MESHtastic. Pathing is basically a way of defining where you want your messages to travel across the mesh. Now, with MESHCORE, you can use this exactly the same as the other systems. You use it in completely automatic mode, and you'll send a message and it will propagate across your mesh and go through various repeaters to get to the other side or wherever you want to send a message. So if you send a message from down here, say in Epping, it will route through any number of these repeaters. Like you can see these icons that have got the little radio tower. It will route through those and it will get to where it needs to get to, and the message will be delivered. That's the theory. Now, with routing and pathing in MESHCORE, you can actually control which of these repeaters you go through. You don't have to just leave it to pure luck and chance, or the algorithm that's been created to actually create this path for you. You can do this manually, which is a really neat thing, and it means you can get some really good message reliability. So let's hop into the contacts and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So we've got station here at the top, CT5426. He's actually sent me a message here, and you can see here it says, "Hey Andy," like that, and we can see some details on that message there. Now, at the moment, we can't really see where that message has been routed through, which is not a problem. But what we can do is, if we reply back to Chris here, say test for YouTube, do it like that, and then send. Now, what's going to happen here is it's going to send out, because we've got flood up the top here, it's going to send this message out, and every repeater is going to hear this and retransmit this packet in an attempt to build a path to Chris. So that's what it's doing right now. It's chunking away, and it's going out into the ether, routing through any number of repeaters to try and find a path to Chris at the other end. When Chris's station actually receives this message, it will acknowledge it and return a path back to me, and that's what's just happened there. You see that delivered. It says 2 hops up the top. Now, those 2 hops are my path to Chris, not the other way around. It's just literally my path to Chris. So if we go into the set path menu here, we can see which repeaters it's actually routed through. So Hartford Omni, not surprising, that's the one that I'm using here. And then Cat M, which is Brian's repeater in Caterham. Now that's about 50 kilometers away from me. And surprisingly enough, Chris's repeater is not actually listed here, because Brian's repeater has actually managed to hit Chris directly, because it's a pretty strong repeater in a really good place. So that is the path there, and that has been automatically found, and it works. It's worked. I've sent the message and it's been delivered, and we know it's been delivered because obviously Chris's side has acknowledged it and everything else. So that's good. That's happened there. Now, this path I'm talking about, this particular path here, this is not going to be the same for Chris, because Chris's path will be different, but highly likely it will be different, because you have a thing called asymmetric paths in these sort of radio meshes. And the reason for that is the topography of the land will be different between these different repeaters. So you could get this situation where I have this path to Brian and it hits Chris directly, but Chris's route back to me is probably going to be different. What we can do is we can ask Chris and say, "What's your path back to me?" And we'll send that out. So that message is going out. It's going to retry using my path here. This is probably going to fail this time, which is not a problem. This is kind of a usual thing that can happen, because we're dealing with many radio links, but we can just retry that again. Now, the other thing is as well, it's quite possible that Chris has actually received this message, because I'm only 2 or 3 hops. Oh look, see, it's created a new path now, because we defaulted to flood. So the new path is actually still not got one of Chris's repeaters in. So, you know, you can see here, this is why things are sort of changing. So this is kind of the reality of it. You've got different paths happening. You know, the system will just sort of, you know, try and manipulate things. Once you find a good path, you can kind of remember that path and then say, well, that one's definitely working. But what I could do here is I could actually, I know Chris's ID for one of his repeaters there. I could put in N22 South repeater. I'll just type that in manually and then save that. And you see here now we've got 4 hops. So Chris has actually replied saying we've got, this is his path to me. So 89 is his repeater, another one of his repeater. And 74 is Brian's. 7A is actually one of my stations, and C0 is one of my stations as well. So that's his path back to me. It's totally different to my path to him. It's not my path to him in reverse. It's just another path completely. So this is the thing to bear in mind. No two paths are going to be the same. Just because you've got, you know, these repeaters in your list there, C0, 37, 51, 26, his path is not going to be 26, 51, 37, C0. It might be, but chances are it probably isn't, especially when you've got a lot of repeaters in the chain. So let's try. I'll say to him, okay, thanks, mate. Also, shorter messages will go through better because the packets are shorter. It's another thing to bear in mind if you want to cut your comms right down. I think I'm not really sure what's happened there anyway, but so you can see my message zip through nice and quick there. And that will be because what I did was I added his repeater into that list. So, you know, before it was going from 51, which is actually, if we look at a map here, if we go back to the map, so Chris is over here somewhere. Now, that's the AX repeater 51. So what's happening is it was using this one here up the top, that one there. It was using that one to go directly to his home station, not even using his own repeater. So that's why it's to go across all that town to get there. But by actually kind of putting his repeater in the list, it's meant that I can, you know, I can actually get a more reliable link to him. So next thing we can do is we can actually look at a complete path there and back. So if we hop back into the menu and we go to tools here, we can use one of the tools called Trace Path Manual. And what we can do here is we can actually construct a path and test it based on kind of what we know is happening out there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my repeater in C0, which is Hartford. Then I'm going to put in the next repeater, which is 74, which is Brian's. Then I know that Brian can hit Chris's repeater, which is 26. And then I know from his repeater, it could go to AX, which is 51. And then I know AX can reach Epping, which is 37. And then back to me, which is 7A. Now, if I run trace on that, what should happen is we should get a complete round trip if it's going to play ball. It should go right the way around London and come back and see what happens. There we go. So we've got it now. So you can see here, it starts at my Andy Think node, goes to Hartford Omni, that's my station, goes to Brian, Cat M, it goes to N22 South, which is Chris's repeater. At that point, that would be where his main station would receive the message, but this is a trace at the moment, so we're just doing a round trip to prove a point. On the way back from Chris, it's AX repeater, Epping repeater, Hartford East Yagi, and then back to my main station. So that is the entire path there and back. You can see here it's totally different one way than it is the other. That's an asymmetric path, and that is going to happen all the time on your mesh. And you can see the signals and everything else on the right hand side. So I'll leave you with that. That is basically trying to explain that you know, how the pathing works and why it doesn't always. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.